So this is my initial reaction to game one of all the playoff games. And in this video, we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference games. All that coming up in about 10 seconds. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jay here with Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. Today, I'm going to talk about my reaction to the Eastern Conference game ones here in the playoffs. They got the early slot, which is kind of unfortunate for them because that was probably the best game. They went to overtime because of a Jimmy Butler layup, which was awesome. He took it to the butter, put it up there, sent them to overtime, and then Chris Middleton hits a game winner to give Milwaukee the game one victory. And there's a few observations I got out of that. And I want to kind of talk about that really quick and what I think about that series and who I think is going to win it. Miami's grit and grind. Pat Riley mentality. Jimmy Butler's perfect for them. He's all of that. And we saw it last year. They would grind their way into the finals. And then what did we see when they grinded themselves into the finals? They grinded themselves into the ground. Jimmy Butler was exhausted. Goran Dragic was hurt. Couldn't really play. They started to fall apart. And the young boys could not step up. Bam Adebayo can only do so much. He got hurt, blah, blah, blah. So this year we have this, and they're grinding. They're very dependent on Jimmy Butler on the offensive side to get things going and defensively. Bam Adebayo does have an argument for Defensive Player of the Year. He's looking really, really good. Milwaukee got smart. They took the ball out of Giannis's hands in the clutch. Now, this isn't any shade to Giannis and how good or bad of a player that he is. The problem with Giannis is he's predictable at a certain point. When the game's in the clutch and it's more iso ball and you have to focus and everybody goes for real half-court offenses to not only A, cut some time, but B, make sure they get a score because every possession is critical at the end of the game. You can't give the ball to Giannis. It's been proven the last couple of years. As Giannis has gone at MVP and been borderline unstoppable, he was stopped. 2 years in a row. Teams figured it out. Let Giannis try to figure it out. After a while, he's not going to be able to make it through because there's not much transition at that point. So Giannis is better when he's bully balling in transition and early in games. But at the end, you get the ball into guys, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, let them run the O and make it happen. Now, Chris Middleton, I don't think is the most clutch guy when they come off the top of the head, but he plays at a pretty clutch level. I mean, he hits some pretty good shots. He's a solid defender, and he's got a jumper that's nice. Hence, he hit that game winner. But what hurts Miami in this game more so than anything is that Milwaukee went 5 for 31 from three. And Miami went 20 for 50 from three. They shot 50 freaking three-pointers. That tells me they're going to lose the series. Miami's going to lose this time around. If Milwaukee's not hitting very many threes at 5 for 31, which is awful, and then you're making 40% of your threes and you didn't win the game, and it was just close, once Milwaukee starts making those shots, there's probably going to be more blowouts. There's going to be a bigger margin of victory. I expect these to be at least 7 to 10 point victories moving forward for Milwaukee. Miami they're going to be tired, and you're going to start seeing the exhaustion kick in late. They showed it at the beginning of the season. They looked like they were worn out early, and they couldn't get it going, and then they started to, ramp it up. They're going to need more from the young guys, and I don't think that Tyler Hero or even though Duncan Robinson had a really good game, I don't think they're going to be able to be consistent enough to keep them going. So I'm going to pick the Bucks to win this. I think they're going to win it in 6, maybe even 5. But it's going to be no more than 6. They're not going too deep. It's going to be, actually, to be honest, I'm going to stick to 5. I think it's going to be Bucks in 5. And I only say that because I think Miami's going to be too tired to keep it going. Next year, Miami's going to be a force to be reckoned with. This year, I just think the exhaustion kicking in from going to the finals last year is going to slow them up. So that's my thoughts on the Bucks versus the Heat, and the unfortunate thing of them being the first game at 12 o'clock on a Saturday. God, that's the slot you put a team that you don't care about, and I think that will be adjusted moving forward. The series is probably the grind, the battle of it. The league's going to appreciate more, and it'll end up going. Boston Celtics, Brooklyn Nets. Now, I'm going to be real with y'all when it comes to this series. This one will probably be the new 12 o'clock game. This will be the early game in the series. Mainly because of this. The Boston Celtics have zero chance of beating this team. They don't have enough firepower. They don't have enough players. They don't have enough people. We don't believe in them. They need more people. And mainly it's because Brooklyn literally can score at will. And even though this is the playoffs, Boston does not have the defenders to stop them. That's where the issue runs in. I was hoping that Boston would give them something, and they looked better without, honestly, Jaylen Brown with him being hurt. They looked better the first half, and then Brooklyn just turned it up. They started off the game like 1 for 10 from 3. So, of course, Brooklyn shot themselves out of the first half, and then they turned it up, and Kevin Durant became Kevin Durant. There's 3 tiers of players in this league. There's multiple tiers, but the top tier in this league is LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and then it's everybody else in the other tiers. And it's no shade to everybody else in their skill level, but it's ridiculous how good Kevin Durant is. It really is. It's unreal. And I've watched him for years in Oklahoma City, so I understand the greatness of Kevin Durant. But my God, the dude he gets a shot, he gets a quiet 30-something, he just goes out and scores. And then, of course, we all joke about how he falls like Peter Griffin in these awkward falling positions and then just gets up and goes. That may be a good thing because of his skinniness. That may help him just be able to be durable in that capacity. But I'm asking the question. I have 2 questions. One, can offense win you a chip? And I don't know. I don't think so. Now, we can always point out Golden State and how they were winning their chips. That was just outscoring everybody. But Golden State also was a top 5 defense every year. I think top 5 or top 10 minimum of every year they won their championships. They were a defensive team. Really good defensive team. And they could just shoot the freaking lights out in the gym. That's the difference maker. Brooklyn, I don't see them as a defensive team. And they've got 3 guys that are just ridiculous. From Kevin Durant being able to score when he wants to, Kyrie Irving's handles, which it is art. It's poetry in motion watching Kyrie Irving do what he does with the ball. Sorry, it's beautiful. And he is weird and it's just great for the league. It's great having a guy like him when he plays. And then James Harden, which I think he is the X factor for them this entire playoffs, because this will be the first year that James Harden will come into the playoffs and not be exhausted. And what I mean by exhausted is that he hasn't had to put up a ton of shots to carry his team into the playoffs and now carry them deeply into it. He doesn't have to do any of that. James Harden is the 3rd option on that team. Trust and believe. He's number 3. And he has accepted that role beautifully to where he will be the X factor for them. I don't see James Harden disappearing this year. I do not. I also see him as probably the only player that will be playing in the second round for this team. And I'm not wishing anything on them because I would love to see Brooklyn go to the finals, and it'd be a fun matchup watching them play against a defensive team. But the biggest problem with them is that they don't stay healthy, because I don't think we have proof that they're a healthy team ever. I mean, they've only played 10 games together? That tells you something this season. Chemistry is important. And I think that once they go up against a defensive team, a true defensive team that's not injured like Boston is, it's done. They're done. Kevin's going to get his, but I don't think the other 2 will get theirs. That's just my thought. Now for Boston, we're at a crossroads, guys. This series will be ended. Brooklyn will sweep. 4-0. There's no chance that Boston has in this one. They may prove me wrong and win 1, but they're not going to win this series. 0 chance. Boston, it's time to go ahead and reflect. Look in the mirror, decide what you're going to do. It's probably time to move on from a lot of different things. A lot of different things. So to start Sunday's games, we had the Philadelphia 76ers and the Washington Wizards. 1 versus 8. Russell Westbrook versus Joel Embiid. So, quick breakdown on this game. It looked like the Wizards had figured out a way to stay in the game and potentially win, which was keeping Joel Embiid in foul trouble. What they didn't expect was Tobias Harris to go off. So Tobias Harris put up 37 points on 15 to 29 shooting. So he shot over 50%, about 40% from three, 5 for 5 from the line. He balled out. Like he was doing it. And then Embiid only played 30 minutes, mainly because he was in foul trouble the entire time, which kind of, throw things a little different than what we would expect it. But Embiid still put up 30 points. Embiid still went off. And honestly, Washington shot well. They were at 55% from the field, 40 from three, 80 from the line. And they still lost by, 7 points? 125 to 118. So it looks like Washington has a chance to make this competitive, but I don't see them winning this series. I've got Philadelphia winning the series in 5. I think Washington steals 1 at the house, but I don't think Washington has enough firepower. This is the one thing I was thinking with them is who on their bench is going to step up and be good enough to offset a moment where Beal or Russ has a bad game. Like in this one, Russ was 7 for 17, didn't make a three-pointer at all, and only had 2 free throws, 16, 14 assists, and 5 boards. And then Bradley Beal had 33 and 10, so Bradley Beal was cooking. He was eating the entire game, but it didn't feel like the team had enough players to actually keep them up with what Philadelphia was doing. So this was a good game for Washington, something they really needed, but Philadelphia just has a little too much, especially if Tobias Harris is going to play like this. Heck, Ben Simmons had 6 points in this game with 15 rebounds and 15 assists. Good God. He did everything except for score points. And he didn't have to because between Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid and then going down the line of Danny Green and Seth Curry, they had enough going on. So I guess for Washington, it's going to be they have to find a way to keep Joel Embiid off the court, keep him in foul trouble, and then not let Tobias Harris put up buckets like that. That's really all you got, guys. Good luck on that one. Now, the Hawks and the Knicks. Whoa, boy, that was a pretty good game. I watched majority of it. I was in and out. I had some things to take to personally that I had to be at, but Trae Young was eating. And the 2 big guns for the Knicks did not show. Julius Randle was 6 for 23 with R.J. Barrett at 6 for 15. So they were, 12 for 38 from the field? 3 for 12 from 3 between those two. And they only put up 29 points between those two. They are the stars. But the good thing for them is, with them only scoring 29 points combined against the Hawks, they only lost by 2 points. And that was mainly because of Trae Young going in there and hitting that shot. I mean, I know it felt great having all the fans in New York in that arena. I think they had about 15,000 of the roughly 20 that they can have in there. So, of course, it was loud. It was beautiful seeing all those fans there, getting the atmosphere of New York, especially when they can get back to being completely full. It's going to be nice next season. But with their top players playing as bad as they did and only losing by 2, it's quite promising. Now, the Hawks themselves, Trae Young, of course, did what he does. He went out there and balled. He finally shot 9 free throws. If I'm correct, he didn't shoot free throws until like the fourth quarter. So when I was watching, they were talking about how he hadn't been to the line yet. It's like, what? Word? Which ain't a good thing. You need Trae Young on the free throw line. You need Trae Young shooting free throws because that's Trae Young's game, getting to the line and scoring that way. But Trae ended with 32 and 10, so he had a solid game. And then, of course, the runner for the game winner shushing the New York crowd. I bet that felt great to get out there and be like, shh, to the New York crowd and calm them all down. Looking at Spike Lee looking all depressed in his orange and blue shirt. It literally said orange and blue on it. Anyway, I think the Knicks can pull this series out. I've got the Knicks winning this in 6. And it's no shade to the Hawks. I just don't think that Trae Young can carry them all the way through. Gallinari had 7 points. Lou Williams barely had 13. Bogdanovich had 18 and Collins had 15. Hunter, 5. Capella, 9. I feel like if Trae Young doesn't do it, the team doesn't go anywhere. And at a certain point, Trae Young's not going to be able to do everything. He's not going to be able to carry them this year. I can see it down the line. If New York is smart defensively and they got Thibodeau, which he's very good at getting teams to the playoffs, Thibodeau needs to play less Peyton, more Rose, which he did. Rose had 17 on 8 of 16 shooting. Him and Alec Burks were basically all the offense for the most part. And they were the 2 leading scorers. He needs to play them both more and let Julius Randle and RJ Barrett get into some sort of rhythm to where they can produce. Because they didn't produce in this game. I'm just going to say that. They didn't. 29 points combined from your top players. That's not what you want. Especially when Julius Randle's up for most improved player and he was, pseudo up there for what kind of MVP talks because of how good of a season he had. I mean, he's averaging 24 this season, 17 for RJ Barrett. So he was about at his average. Well, he has 14. You need more out of Julius Randle. Let's put it like that. Point blank period. You need Julius Randle to average a double-double. He needs to be putting up at least 25 and 10 every game. And in this one, it looked like he didn't know what to do. It may have been first-time playoff jitters for him. He had 15 and 12, but he's got to put up at least 25. He needs 10 more points. 10 more points, and they win easily in this game. It just felt like they were not – like they couldn't get their rhythm going. It felt like for Randle and Barrett. And I mean, that could be Nate McMillan's defense. It could be the Hawks playing a pretty good defensive game. I mean, you could probably give them that instead of saying that, it's more the Knicks losing this game. I think it's more the Hawks play really good defense. And if the Hawks can keep that defensive intensity up, I think they can pull this out. Because the Knicks did shoot bad, but I'm not going to count them out just yet. I think they're the better team. I just think that overall they're the better team. Especially with Rose and Burks and Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. Just going down the list, I think they're just a better team than the Atlanta Hawks this year. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm going to still say Knicks in 6. I just need Julius Randle to give us more. That's what we need. And don't let Trae Young shush the crowd. And then that pass on the last play was god-awful. I don't know what they were thinking with that. But, yeah, give me more Julius Randle. Give me more.